The belt cracks like a gunshot across my arm, and I stumble, the kitchen linoleum cold under my bare feet. Pain blooms, sharp and electric, radiating from my shoulder as I clutch it, gasping. My stepfather, Marcus, looms over me, his shadow swallowing the dim light from the single bulb above the sink. His belt dangles from his hand, the leather worn but unyielding, glinting with menace in the Seattle dusk. "Say it again," he snarls, voice low, daring me to repeat the defiance that brought this down. I don't. Not because I'm scared, though. My heart hammers like it's trying to break free, but because my anger is a coiled spring, ready to snap. My mother, Diane, sits at the table, her phone glowing in her hands, her face blank as if this is just another Tuesday. Her silence cuts, deeper than the belt ever could. I'm Adeline Marie Voss, and tonight my world fractures. I'm 16, but I feel 100 years old, worn down by years of tiptoeing around Marcus's temper and Diane's indifference. The air in our cramped Capitol Hill apartment is thick with the smell of overcooked meatloaf, the kind that sticks to your throat like regret. I'd spend an hour setting the table, folding napkins into neat triangles, polishing forks until they shone like silver medals, hoping for one meal where no one yells, where no one demands I bow. But hope is a fragile thing in this house, and it shatters when Liam, Marcus's 8-year-old son, barks, "Juice!" His voice is flat, entitled like a prince who knows his crown is made of my submission. I pour the apple juice, hands steady. Despite the tremor in my chest, Liam's legs swing under the table, his sneakers thumping rhythmically against the chair. "With ice," he adds, not looking at me, his eyes fixed on the TV, blaring some cartoon in the living room. I nod, jaw tight, and head to the freezer. The ice cubes clink into the glass, each one a small rebellion against the weight of his demand. I set the glass down, careful not to spill, but Liam sighs, loud and dramatic. "Too slow," he says, smirking as he slurps. Then, with a flick of his wrist, he tosses his fork to the floor. Oops, I bend to pick it up, my knees aching. Against the cold floor. The linoleum is cracked, a map of neglect that mirrors this family. I glance at Diane, hoping for a flicker of acknowledgement, but her eyes are glued to her phone, scrolling through posts about perfect families that aren't. Ours. I place the fork beside Liam's plate and move to sit, my stomach growling for the meatloaf I haven't touched. But before my chair creaks, Diane's voice slices through the air like a blade. "He eats first, Adeline, then you clean up. He's the king, you know your place." The words land like a slap, but it's the casual cruelty in her tone that stings. Most. I freeze, my hand hovering over the chair. I'm hungry too, I want to say, but the words stick in my throat. I sit anyway, just for a second. A quiet act of defiance. Marcus's head snaps up, his eyes narrowing. What did she just do? He asks, voice dangerously soft. Liam giggles, a sound that grates like nails on a chalkboard. She sat. He says, gleeful. Marcus slams his fork down, the metal clanging against the plate. Did I say she could sit? I open my mouth, but no sound comes. My legs stiffen as I stand again, bracing for what's coming. Marcus's chair scrapes back, the sound like a warning siren. Juice, Liam barks again, though his glass is still full. I turn to the pitcher, my hands shaking now, not from fear but from the rage bubbling under my skin. He has arms, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. He can serve himself. The silence that follows is a living thing, heavy and suffocating. Marcus's hand moves to his belt, the leather hissing through the denim loops like a snake. My stomach drops. Say it again, he says, stepping toward me, his boots thudding on the floor. I back up, my bare feet slipping slightly on the linoleum. The first strike comes fast, the belt lashing across my upper arm. Pain explodes, white hot, and I scream, Marcus, stop. But he doesn't. The second hit lands across my back. Searing line that steals my breath. I stumble, vision blurring, my right arm hanging uselessly as something inside it cracks. Diane stands now, not to help, but to grab my face, her nails digging into my cheeks. "You feed him," she hisses, her breath hot against my skin. "Or you get out, worthless girl." Marcus hits again, and Liam laughs, a high-pitched cackle that echoes in my skull. I stagger backward, my shoulder pulsing with a sickening throb. "Out." Diane growls, pointing to the door like I'm a stray dog. Marcus yanks it open, the cold Seattle air rushing in. "You want to act grown? Then leave?" I move toward the hallway, my sleeve shirt clinging to my sweat-soaked skin, my pajama pants too thin for the November chill. I grab my wallet from the counter, empty except for a crumpled dollar bill I'd found in my hoodie pocket. "Toothbrush?" I whisper, my voice breaking. Diane slams the door in my face, the deadbolt clicking with a finality that echoes louder than the belt. I flinch, standing on the porch, the concrete biting my bare feet. The porch light flickers, as if it can't decide if I'm worth illuminating. I limp down the driveway, cradling my arm, the pain a constant pulse. No bag, no shoes, just a broken arm and $1. The street is quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like the city is holding its breath. I walk half a block, the asphalt rough under my soles, until I reach a streetlight. It flickers once, twice, then holds steady. I sink to the ground, my back against the pole, and stare at the dark sky. Blood trickles from my temple, warm against my cold skin. I don't wipe it away. My hands tremble, scraped and small, but I whisper, "I'm still here, not gone, not erased." The night stretches on, and I move, driven by a need to find somewhere. That isn't theirs. Downtown Seattle at midnight is a maze of shadows and neon, the streets slick with recent rain. I pass a shuttered coffee shop, its closed sign glowing faintly, and a dive bar spilling laughter and cigarette smoke. My stomach growls, a reminder of the meatloaf I never ate. I had one bite of toast this morning before Diane snatched it back for Liam. Now hunger is a claw in my gut. Footsteps echo behind me, quick and uneven. I tense, my good hand curling into a fist. A group of college kids stumbles past, their laughter sharp and careless. One notices me, a girl with a nose ring and a leather jacket. "Yo, check out this chick," she slurs, pointing. What's she doing? Auditioning for a sob story. Another tosses a half-empty beer can. It hits my chest, the liquid soaking. My shirt cold and sour. I gasp, the jolt sending pain shooting through my arm. They laugh, their voices fading as they disappear into the night. I wipe at the sting with my sleeve, smearing it deeper, and keep walking. The first danger comes. Without warning. Crossing Pike Street, headlights blind me as a car barrels through a red light. I leap back, my bare feet slipping on the wet pavement, landing hard on my injured arm. Pain whites out my vision, and I choke back a scream, curling into myself. On the sidewalk. The car doesn't stop, its taillights vanishing into the fog. I sit there, breathing shallowly, until the pain ebbs enough to move. I reach a small Methodist church. Its brick facade weathered, but sturdy. The door is locked. The window's dark. I knock, my knuckles stinging against the wood, but no one answers. I slide down the steps, the cold seeping through my thin pants. For a moment, I imagine someone opening the door, offering a blanket, a kind word. But the silence is absolute, and I move on dot at a 24-hour gas station on Broadway, the fluorescent. Lights make my bruises look worse, stark against my pale skin. The clerk, a middle-aged man with a bored expression, barely glances up. "Bathrooms are for paying customers," he says, flipping through a magazine. I hold up my dollar bill, crumpled and damp. "I have this." He sighs, pointing to the back, water bottles last aisle. I grab the smallest one, 89 cents, and hand over my only money. He doesn't offer change or a bag dot in the restroom. A cracked mirror reflects a stranger. My left eye is swelling, a bruise blooming across my cheek. Scratches crisscross my neck, and dried blood mats my hair. My arm hangs at an odd angle, stiffening. With every minute, "This is what worthless looks like to them," I whisper, the words bitter in my mouth. I splash water on my face, wincing as it stings the cuts, and leave. The second danger finds me near a shuttered diner, its neon sign flickering open like a lie. A man steps from an alley, his hoodie obscuring his face. "Got any cash?" he asks, voice low, hand twitching toward his pocket. My heart races, but I shake my head, backing away. "Nothing," I say, holding up my empty hands. He steps closer, then stops, maybe seeing the blood on my face or the way I cradle my arm. He mutters something and disappears into the shadows. I hurry away, my breath ragged. I find a bench across from a bus stop under a billboard for a personal injury lawyer. The irony isn't lost on me. I sit, the cold metal biting through my pants, and try to think. Minutes blur into hours and exhaustion pulls at me. I don't remember closing my eyes, but a voice wakes me, soft and weathered. "You hungry, kid?" I open my eyes to see an older black man, maybe 70s, standing a few feet away. His navy coat is faded, his hands holding a paper bag and a rolled up blanket. I don't answer, but my stomach growls, betraying me. He nods, sitting carefully beside me, his knees creaking. "Name's Samuel Cole," he says, tearing a turkey sandwich in half and offering me a piece. "Used to fix cars at a shop on Aurora, got jumped one night, lost my savings, ended up out here. But I'm still kicking." His voice is calm, like he's seen worse than this bench, and doesn't judge me for it. I take the sandwich, my fingers brushing his. The bread is dry, the meat cold, but it's the best thing I've eaten in days. He pulls a blanket from his bag, draping it over my legs. "You got fire, girl," he says, looking at the street. "Even with that arm, I see it. Don't let it burn wild." Tears prick my eyes, not from pain, but from the weight of his kindness. "I'm Audilyn," I whisper, my voice barely audible. He smiles, his eyes crinkling. Now I know who to pray for tonight. The third danger comes as I leave the bench, the blanket wrapped around my shoulders. A stray dog, ribs visible under matted fur, lunges from an alley, teeth bared. I stumble back, my injured arm slamming against a dumpster. Pain flares, and I cry out, scrambling away as the dog snarls but doesn't follow. My heart pounds as I limp toward a quieter street. The blanket slipping, but still warmed-out Samuel walks with me, pointing to a women's shelter a few blocks away. The building is nondescript, its windows covered with bars. Inside, a tired receptionist hands me a key to a small room, a bare mattress, a metal bed frame, a plastic chair. The door locks, and for the first time tonight, I feel a flicker of safety. I sink onto the mattress, the blanket still around me, and try to sleep. But the pain in my arm keeps me awake. A constant reminder of Marcus's belt. Morning comes gray and heavy, the shelter's cafeteria smelling of weak coffee and stale biscuits. I cradle a paper cup, staring at a crumbling biscuit, when a girl slides onto the bench across from me. She's maybe 20, her hoodie worn, one shoelace tied in a knot. "You the one who fought your stepdad?" she asks, no preamble. I blink, startled. "What?" she shrugs. "Staff talks?" "Said you pulled a knife." I set the cup down too hard, coffee sloshing. "That's not what happened." She doesn't push, but her eyes linger, curious but not unkind. I don't blame her. Rumors spread fast in places like this. Later, a staff member named Clara calls me to her office, the air thick with lemon cleaner and ink. She opens a file with my name on it. "We got a report," she says gently. "Your stepfather, Marcus, says you threatened him with a knife. Claims you're unstable, a risk to his son." My breath catches, a bitter laugh escaping. "I had one episode." I say it was called saying no. Clara doesn't flinch, but her eyes hold pity, like I'm a broken thing she can't fix. "They filed with child protection too," she adds. "Even though you're 16, they say you're a threat to Liam." The words hit like a punch. They didn't just kick me out. They're trying to erase me, painting me as the villain. In their story, I ask for the report and Clara hands me a few pages. Marcus's name, Diane's signature, words like agitated and threatening stare back at me. Nowhere do they mention the belt, the bruises, or the blood drying on my face. The fourth danger comes that night as I walk to a public library near 4th Avenue, determined to tell my truth. The streets are slick with rain, and a group of men loiter. Near a closed deli, their eyes tracking me. One steps forward, his voice slurred. "Hey, sweetheart, need a ride?" I clutch the blanket tighter, my good hand ready to swing, and keep walking, my pace quickening. They laugh but don't follow, their voices fading as I reach the library's glass doors. Inside, the warmth is a shock after the cold. I get a login code from the desk and sit at a corner computer, the monitor flickering to life. My fingers hover over the keyboard, then start typing. "This is how you erase a daughter," I write, the words pouring out like blood from a wound. I describe the belt, the silence, the way Diane called me worthless at 12. I write about the hunger, the cold, the moment I realized they wanted me gone. I find a survivors forum, a quiet corner of the internet, and post anonymously, signing. My name is Adeline. I didn't run away. I was thrown away. The fifth danger strikes as I leave the library. A man follows me, his footsteps too close, his shadow too long. I duck into an alley, heart racing, only to realize it's a dead end. He's there blocking the exit, his hands in his pockets. "Lost, kid?" he asks, stepping closer. I grab a broken bottle from the ground, holding it up with my good hand, my voice steady despite the fear. "Back off." He hesitates then, shrugs and walks away, but my hands shake as I drop the bottle and hurry back to the shelter. I crawl into bed, the report pages crumpled beside me. My story's out there now, a small spark in the dark. They tried to bury me in silence, but I'm learning to scream. Tomorrow, I'll find Samuel again. Maybe ask about that studio he mentioned. For now, I clutch the blanket, its patches soft against my skin, and whisper, "Still here." The words are a promise, a defiance, a fire they can't extinguish. The shelter's thin mattress creaks under me as I wake, the gray Seattle dawn filtering through a barred window. My arm throbs, a dull ache that pulses with every heartbeat, a reminder of Marcus's belt and the night I became a ghost in my own life. The blanket Samuel gave me is still draped over my legs, its frayed patches a quiet comfort. I'm Adeline. Marie Voss, 16, and yesterday I poured my truth into a survivors forum, a digital cry that no one in this house of broken souls has seen yet. But today, I'm not just surviving, I'm searching for something to hold on to, something that isn't theirs. I slip out of the shelter, the air sharp with the promise of rain. Samuel's words echo in my mind. A studio, Willowstone, where people shape clay into things that don't scream. My bare feet, still shoeless, sting against the cold pavement as I follow his directions to a narrow street in Tacoma. The studio sign is unassuming, just Willowstone in faded paint. Above a heavy door. I push it open, and the smell hits me, damp earth like a forest after a storm, mixed with something smoky and sweet. Inside, sunlight slants through high windows, catching dust motes that dance over shelves of bowls and vases, each one raw. And human, like they carry secrets in their curves. A woman looks up from behind a counter, her silver hair twisted into a bun, her apron splattered with dried glaze. Her eyes, calm but sharp, scan me bruises, limp arm and all. "You're Samuel's girl," she says, not a question. "I'm Nora. He said you might need a place." I nod, unsure what to say. She doesn't ask about the marks on my face or the way I cradle my arm. Instead, she pulls a block of clay from under the counter, wrapped in damp muslin, and presses it into my hands. "It's okay to be clumsy," she says. Clay remembers everything, but it forgives easy. I sit at a workbench, the clay cool and heavy. My right arm protests as I try to wedge it, the pain flaring white-hot. I flinch, and the clay collapses, a lopsided heap that mirrors how I feel broken, uneven, slumped. I stare at it, my throat tight, but Nora's voice cuts through. Symmetry is overrated. Scars have shape. She hands me a wooden tool, and I carve 2 words into the clay's rim. Still here. It's not perfect, but it's mine. The first tension comes that afternoon. I'm sweeping the studio floor when the door chimes, sharp and urgent. My heart stumbles as Marcus steps in, his polo shirt tucked into dark jeans, his presence filling the room like a storm cloud. He scans the shelves, his mouth curling into that familiar smirk. Adeline, he says, his voice dripping with mock. Surprise, playing artist now? Thought you'd be begging on a corner by now. My fingers tighten around the broom, the wood biting into my palm. Nora stands nearby, her arms crossed, her silence daring him to push further. You think this little hobby matters? He continues, brushing a finger along a teacup's rim, letting it wobble. Mom says you're spreading lies online, playing the victim like it's your job. I set the broom down, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. You came all the way here, Marcus. That means you're scared. My story's out there? Now, his smile twitches, but he steps closer, his boots loud against the concrete. You're just noise, Adeline. Static. You'll fade like always. The air crackles with his threat, but I don't back down. I move to the wheel, slap a fresh block of clay down, and start wedging it, my good hand guiding the motion. The hum of the wheel fills the room, studying my breath. Marcus watches, arms folded, trying to look bored, but his eyes follow every turn of the clay. Nora steps forward, her voice low but firm. This is a studio, a place for healing. You brought poison here. Marcus scoffs, turning to her. You don't know what she's done. Nora's gaze doesn't waver. I know she's rebuilding. That's enough. I keep shaping the clay, my hands moving in a rhythm that feels like defiance. Marcus's jaw tightens, and for a moment, I think he might lunge. But the door chimes softly as he turns and leaves, the sound fading into the hum of the wheel. Nora places a hand on my shoulder. That was strength, she says. I nod, not looking up, and whisper, silence used to mean safety. Now it's power. The clay holds steady, a small victory. The second tension hits that evening as I walk. Back to the shelter, a group of men, their voices loud and slurred, spill out of a bar on Pacific Avenue. One spots me, his grin sharp. Hey, kid, you lost? He steps into my path, his friends circling like wolves. My heart races, my injured arm useless, as I clutch the blanket tighter. Just passing through, I say, stepping sideways, but another blocks me, his breath reeking of whiskey. What's the rush? I scan for an escape, spotting a narrow alley. I bolt, my bare feet slapping the pavement, their laughter chasing me. A bottle shatters behind me, glass skittering across the street, but I don't stop until I'm back. At the shelter, my chest heaving the next day, Nora offers me a job as an assistant clay technician. The card she hands me, white textured with Adeline Marie Voss, Willowstone Studio, and neat print, feels like a lifeline. Pay small, she says, but you matter here. I tuck it into my pocket, its weight grounding me. The studio becomes my sanctuary, a place where the air doesn't carry rage. I sweep floors, mix glazes, and learn to let the clay guide my hands. Not fight them. Samuel visits, bringing news of a bookstore event in Tacoma, a community reading night. Just sit. He says, you don't have to talk. I hesitate, but his words just feel like permission I didn't know I needed. That evening, I walked to the bookstore on Milner Street, its amber lights glowing like a beacon. Inside, mismatched chairs form a half circle around a rug, a fireplace crackling softly. I take a seat near the middle, not too exposed, clutching. A cup of cider someone hands me. People share stories. A woman reads a poem about surviving a stroke. A man recites a letter to his estranged son. Their voices crack, unapologetic, and something in me softens, like ice thawing in spring. When the host asks if anyone else wants to speak, Samuel nudges me. I shake my head, but my legs move anyway, carrying me to a small stool. I open the notebook I've been scribbling in, my hands trembling. It wasn't the belt that hurt most, I read, my voice shaking but growing stronger. It was the silence afterward, like the world agreed to forget me. The room stills, then claps, not loud but steady, real. A woman approaches after, her eyes warm behind wire-rimmed glasses. My stepfather did the same, she says. I never told anyone. We talk until the lights dim, trading stories that feel like enough. The third tension comes a week later at the studio. I'm unloading bisqueware from the kiln, the heat radiating through the bricks, when the door chimes. Again. My heart stops as Diane steps in, her trench coat buttoned too tightly, her purse clutched like a shield. She doesn't knock, just stands there, her breath fogging the glass before she enters. "Adeline, honey," she says, her voice dripping. With false warmth, the kind she uses at church fundraisers. "We've been worried sick. You just disappeared." I don't move from the workbench, the clay cool under my fingers. "I didn't disappear," I say, my voice even. "I walked out bleeding." Her eyes flicker, unprepared for my calm. "Marcus said you weren't well, that you were acting unstable." The light stings, but I'm ready. "You knew what he did," I say. "You watched him hit me, and you turned away." She exhales sharply. "Families fight, Adeline. You've always been dramatic." I almost laugh, the predictability of her gaslighting a twisted comfort. "You called me worthless when I was 12, I say, holding a half-formed bowl. "I hear it in my sleep. You meant it." Diane steps closer, her tone softening but her eyes flat. "That was discipline. You were never easy." I look around. The studio, its shelves holding flawed, beautiful things. "You don't get to rewrite this," I say. "This place isn't for ghosts who lie." Nora moves beside me, her presence steady. Samuel steps in from the back, his hands dusted with clay, and other artists pause, their silence a quiet support. Diane's eyes dart to them, her purse strap tightening in her grip. "I came to help," she says. I shake my head. "You came to control. There's a difference." She lifts her chin, pride twitching, and walks out. The doors chime soft. As it closes, the fourth tension strikes that night as I return to the shelter. A fire alarm blares, and smoke curls from the kitchen. I freeze, trapped in a hallway as residents scramble. My arm screams as I push through, the heat licking at my skin. I stumble outside, coughing, the blanket singed but still around me. The fire's small, a grease spill, but the panic lingers. My heart racing as I realize how close I came to being trapped. Weeks pass, and my art takes shape. I create a sculpture, a shattered wing, its edges jagged but defiant, glazed in ash gray. Nora helps me prepare for a gallery exhibit in Tacoma, my pieces displayed under soft lights. The night of the show, a line stretches down the block, people clutching invitations like treasures. I stand behind a mic, my heart thudding. "My name is Adeline Marie Voss," I say, the words echoing. For years, I thought my story wasn't worth hearing, but clay doesn't lie. It remembers every tremor, every fracture. The crowd listens, some crying, their silence a kind of reverence. The fifth tension erupts as Diane and Marcus appear at the exhibit, her coat too neat, his arms crossed like he owns the room. Diane murmurs, loud enough to carry, "She's always been theatrical." A critic nearby turns, her press badge glinting. "She sculpted your cruelty into art," she says. "That's not drama. That's survival." A curator approaches, offering a tour in New York, Chicago, Sydney. Diane steps forward, smiling. "That's our daughter. We're so proud." I face her, calm but sharp. "They're not here to support me. They came to claim me now that the clay's worth something." The crowd murmurs, cameras click, and applause rises, drowning their lies. I lit a candle that night for the girl I was, the one who survived silence. My hands, tougher now, shape a new figure, a girl, cross-legged, smiling softly, her own wings folded. Diane's letter arrives days later, vague and unapologetic. I leave it on the windowsill unanswered. The studio mounts my wing sculpture, a plaque reading, "For the girl who survived." People pause before it, some whispering, "That's my story." 2. I don't explain, I don't need to. They tried to bury me, but I'm sculpting a future they can't touch.